we both know the solution to the challenge that Australia faces. Unfortunately, you can't do it by yourself. I can't do it by myself. It's very clear that we need to wake up. We need to take some responsibility and put the focus on the solutions, not the problems.
Always hopeful, frustrated by the system, concerned but hopeful.
I think that anybody, multiple reasons, anyone that does anything in the private, I think that they're not contributing to the country in any way, shape, or form. I think that they're running, they're hiding. Mate, for me, it's very clear. Like, I'll get people to put this in the chat box as well, too, guys, if you don't mind. Just put similar to what Warren asked, what do you think the biggest concerns in Australia are? What are the biggest concerns that we have within Australia? It's easy to point the finger at what other people are doing, but if we don't take action ourselves, then who
Well,
really is at loss? I'm not saying the government's great by any means, in any way, shape, or
no,
form,
no.
at all, in any way. I just don't think it's a thing where you can pick and choose when the government's the enemy or not. If everybody stood up and took a little bit more responsibility in the public space, then the need for the government would be very minimal, even to the point, Warren, where they might not even be needed as well, too, right?
Well, I think what we're seeing right now is unfortunately stuff that I never really hoped I'd see in my lifetime. I honestly didn't, where we would see the level of dystopia and government control. I'm just going to meditate and kind of lead the country to the dogs. I mean, fuck this, it's all too hard. And I'm going to get back to God. You speak sincerely, but you speak from ignorance. He says the job the job of the spiritual man or woman is to be a warrior. Like what color underwear I'm wearing right now is no one's business. And it's not because I'm hiding anything.
Like, was COVID really that bad? Well, I'm not saying it was great in any way, shape, or form, but I tell you what, it woke up half of this country, which was bloody needed for a long time as well, too, right? I think that COVID really deep down has been an incredible thing for the country to wake up,
Oh,
for people to see what really goes on. But the thing is now that people have woken up, well, you don't wake up and then run away. You got to wake up and then you got to step up. We all play a little bit of a role, mate. We can make a big difference very, very, very quickly. But if we're in fear, if people are in fear and people are hiding and people are running, well, it's really feeding the beast is really what it's doing. Change is inevitable. And sometimes I think people can get too comfortable and they resist the change a little bit instead of evolving with the change and growing with the change, and being a part of that change as well.
And I noticed this with the sovereign citizen movement. A lot of people who got their guns confiscated, which by the way is outrageous. I mean, to take them off lawful firearms owners is outrageous. And the fact is, we wouldn't have seen the breaking down of the woke system in America if you hadn't had people speak out like they did, if you hadn't had Trump speak out. Charlie Kirk spoke out, cost him his life.
Oh, mate, absolutely. In education, I mean, anyone that's been to school in Australia, doesn't matter when you were there, whether it was 50 years ago or 5 years ago, you're taught how to write a resume, not a business plan. You're told that you got to pay taxes, but you don't understand why you're paying taxes or how to do your own taxes as well too. I mean, schools are no different to prisons, mate. You get told when to eat, what to eat. You got to line up in two. You get told what to wear. But at the end of the day, mate, the sun shines on all of us the same because it all starts with the man in the mirror, right? And I definitely notice that some people see more chaos than others, and it's as within, so without, right? If there's chaos in your own mind, then you're going to see chaos out there. If you can get order in your own mind, then you're going to find that there's order out there, or there's opportunities out there as well, too, right?
What we see in the external world outside of us is feedback for us as to the conflicts within our inner world.
The Great Reset will only apply to those that fail to raise their consciousness, that fail to move spiritually, fail to actually absorb who they really are, their true self, who they are. They need to break away from greed. They need to break away from guilt and shame. They need to get away from lust is another real big one. Fear is an exceptional one. And the victim mindset is quite simply 1 minute you're the victim, the next minute you're blaming someone, or the next minute you're rescuing someone. Surround yourself around people that you aspire to be, or on the vibration where you are. We can be prisoners to our own emotions, right? We can feed those emotions, and it really is hell on earth, because heaven and hell is just a mindset, right? Heaven literally is on earth. If you can find that, you can not attach yourself to those emotions. So if you can be free in your own soul, so you don't torment yourself, you get out of your own way, you don't play the victim, you don't buy into any of that stuff, and you focus on what you can do, and you move up to the top of those blues and those purples. That's where the great awakening is. The great awakening is those that raise their consciousness, and the great reset will be for those that don't. And I honestly don't see it any other way.
I've got the symptoms of arthritis, but they're dissolving. And I kind of just let go. And the next day or two, I end up bumping into a lady in my favorite cafe and tells me she's a yoga teacher and how a lot of people who get arthritic symptoms just because they got a tight body. So I started doing yoga. And then the next thing that happened was I come across a Tyler Tolman article about using Kabbalah juice fasting. So I thought, I'm going to train myself out of this habit. And I learned this from Pastor Joyce Meyer, interestingly. She reckoned that every morning when she'd wake up and fear would hit her, she would just wake up and, in her case, she would say, I'm an overcomer in Christ. Satan, you're under my feet. You have no power. That was her affirmation. 6 months later, my hands were absolutely perfect. I had no symptoms and I was completely fine. And I've healed 5 incurable diseases, I like the fact I can spend $12 a day and just ride a motorbike and not have to go through a 6-month, 100-hour, thing or whatever you got to go through.
You need to really ask yourself, well, what is your purpose? What is it that you're here to do, right? Like, what do you love? What are you good at? What does the world need? What will people pay for? I've always said that the devil lives in the head, mate, and God lives in the heart. I mean, everybody knows what it's like when you walk into a room and there's an uneasy energy. When I walk into a room like that, I turn around and walk straight out of it. It's not the type of environment for me to be around, but you've got to be in tune with that sort of stuff. Real joy, real joy and real happiness is being free in the spirit. So it's in the mind as well too. It's not just in the body, right? When we say words, we're casting spells. Don't say don't. Don't use the word like can't, things like that. They're all little mindsets. I think a big thing, mate, as what individuals collectively need to do is they really need to rewire their subconscious, because the subconscious can be the biggest trap for us. That's what breaking generational trauma is, changing that for the next generation.
Steve McDonald, who we know pretty well, he says we're in one of the most significant shifts in consciousness, basically in modern history, according to Graves and Wilbur. We're moving into a green, what's called philanthropic, public kind of good kind of consciousness, whereas the Dark Ages was back in the amber. It's the contribution that you make to the earth and to the world.
Legacy.
You don't just talk about this stuff. You got out there and you had Prevent Consultants, where you really help people with mental health. You helped me when I had my cannabis brownie incident in Thailand 2 years ago with wisdom that helped me get through a really scary moment for me.
Mate, for me, that I kind of live on the 3 pillars of educate, empower, and enlightenment. I think some of the biggest things that people struggle with is knowing how to have self-discipline. I think it's around about making conscious choices, Warren, very first and foremost. It's about not doing what other people tell you to do. It's about what's doing is true to yourself. It's around about acquiring wisdom, sharing your wisdom with other people in that sense as well too, exploring it, because at the end of the day, life is quite short. Your highest vibration is authenticity. It's about being really true to yourself and authentic to yourself. If you can be authentic, you will find that you will have one of the most incredible lives getting around. Faith over fear at the end of the day, right? Like, it's faith over fear. And you've got to trust yourself as well too. Education, education. Education leads to empowerment. Empowerment leads to enlightenment. Enlightenment leads to true sovereignty is what it is. You won't find one because there isn't one. But what is there? Well, there's a lot of grants that give out to a lot of public foundations. There's mental health challenges in this country and there's a lack of services. The government's not going to do anything about it. So what we'll do instead is we'll set up our own foundation. We believe that the foods at Coles are up to shit. So we're going to do our own public foundation, and we're going to focus on organic farming. We're going to teach people how to do their own stuff in their own house, so they don't need to go to Coles and Woolworths, and they can't keep dictating the prices of what people pay.
There was a time 500 years ago where if you had a Bible in English, this is totally serious. If you had a Bible in English, you could be on the barbecue that night. If you were a herbalist doing plant medicine, you were deep shit.
We're all just trying to walk each other home at the end of the day, Warren. We're all here for a reason. We're all here to leave the place better. Well, we change out there by changing in here. But the truth of the matter is man is trying to play God. What really is the matrix? It's when we don't have control of our own mindset, when we've been embedded with fear. Is there a better feeling than contributing? I don't think so, and that's one of the greatest keys to staying in a high vibration.
Bell writes, being in the private doesn't prohibit one from contributing to humanity. No, not at all. I knew there was a price for me pushing back in COVID, and I won't go into the details, but there was a price I paid. I couldn't just get up and speak out against the government agenda. It happens because right now we get out there and spread the word.
This is why we've got the cost of living. This is why inflation is the way that it is, because the more you print, the more inflation you get. And we're at the point now where people can't afford to it. I think everybody would agree going to get one grocery basket at the IGA or, one little shopping bag's probably $100 these days, right? We've got to put those things down. We've got to come back into the real world. No better time to release things that no longer serve you and adapt to things that do serve you.
It's the point where we've gone from, by and large, still some semblance of freedoms to where potentially the last remaining ones are going to be limited like never before.
Guys, take what you want to take, leave what doesn't serve you. That's simple. I appreciate
It is
you.
important.